You know, like when I buy something vintage or buy something old, and so she goes, "Are you crazy? I can make that for you.
Totally.
Just give it to me for 20 years."
And they were like the true environmentalists because they don't waste. They just use it until it's like ready to be.
My mom still has newspaper that she uses and recycles like over and over. When I say recycle, I mean reuses, like from the 90s.
Love that. Love that.
It's I want to say insanity, but it's genius.
It is.
You know, it's kind of what we aspire to.
Yeah.
But they do it by literally just survival and make do.
Totally.
You know, it's like, it's funny how.
And how many brothers and sisters do you have? I forgot. You had a big
I
family.
am the youngest of 6.
6.
Yeah.
Okay. So you know you have to be creative and cooking and making things go far, right?
She did. I was the one that I guess like when you're younger, when you come from such a big family, like at that point she was like, "We're just tired. Do whatever you want," you know.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want. But also like I was the closest to her too.
Yeah.
Because I think that because she was a seamstress and it was something I was just attracted to, like a natural affinity for. I would hang out with her, you know, all the things that she was in charge of, the kitchen, like the clothes and stuff like that. I had an affinity for, like early on. It was like just second nature.
So then I just want to hear, like, before we start cooking, how did you get into fashion? I know your mom was a seamstress, so you were did you have some, you know, interest in it early on, and then how did it evolve?
Yeah.
And I know you said you did an internship at Catio Deli, and like how did it evolve?
I think that I never knew what fashion was. I was always just a creative child. You can say like I'm a creative instigator or a creative, a creator. It was just, you know, early on, I don't know how and why. I just remember always being interested in taking clothes apart or whatever I can get my hands on, making things, taking toys apart. If it was like getting into bicycles, it was like not just about the bicycles, but the gear, how it looked, the uniform, skating. It was never about the skating. It was about the skateboard.
Yeah,
it was about the colors. It was about the clothes you would wear. And I remember early on.
Did you ever were you a surfer or no?
Not surfer. Just like the skating and the BMXing, and I raised pigeons even when I was 11 years old. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Because one summer, my parents sent me away to El Monte, inland, to stay with my cousins, and they had donut shops. And in that area, there was feed stores. So there was livestock and whatnot. And I remember being taken to a livestock store, and I saw these beautiful pigeons. They were not normal pigeons that you see, the gray park pigeons.
Yeah.
These were like king pigeons or fancy feet or crown pigeons. And I was like mesmerized by their beauty.
How old were you at this?
11.
11, okay.
11 years old. So after that summer, I brought pigeons back to her house, and I made this pen in the backyard, and I raised pigeons. And I had like 100 pigeons, and they would shit all over her roof, and she was like, "Okay, you need to stop. You got to find a different hobby."
So you were training them?
I was training them.
Were they
because
smart?
They were so beautiful.
Did they pick up?
Yeah,
on it?
I mean, it's very simple. You know what I mean? Like it's like you're raising chickens or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, you would leave them out in the day, feed them. They come back in during the night, and you shut the door. And then, but they were fancy pigeons though, and I think that I was just so drawn to the beauty. You know?
Yeah. And did you do this for a while, or like?
I did this for about 4 years. That's 4
amazing.
years. Yeah.
It's so funny because we were doing this session with Aya Kanai, and she went to Oberlin where Sean went to school, and she was talking about she was a puppeteer for a number of years and like traveled all around. And
wow.
Oh my God, like wow.
Aya.
But anyways, I know, you know, obviously you've been a designer and you kind of worked your way. Tell me like how when you started actually in design, and then how did you end up to Phillip Lim? I know.
Yeah, that's a long story. Let's see. So I grew up in Orange County. I wasn't around fashion. I went to school. So I played tennis, raised pigeons, loved skateboards, bicycles. It was also, I remember, it was also the beginning of MTV.
Oh yeah.
So the music videos, and I was just like enthralled by what I was seeing, all the musicians like self-styling and looking like their music, sounding like the music, right? And so when it was time for go to college, I was like, okay, my parents like, you have to like grow up now. You have to be somebody.
Yeah, you're not gonna train pigeons.
No, you're not gonna train pigeons. But being someone meant to be a doctor or a lawyer or engineer or a business person, right? Like a degree, then you're somebody.
Yeah.
Because you have to remember it's the classic immigrant story. You sacrifice everything, you bring your children to this new land and to be somebody.
Right.
And in their definition of somebody was like the general idea
engineer.
of what that was acceptable. So I went to
I think that
business school.
still exists a little today.
Yeah.
For a lot of families. And
Yeah.
So it's good to hear your story.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think that my parents just wanted me to have a secure job, whatever what that meant. But I went to Cal State Long Beach. I was a business major, studied that for 3 years. And I remember in accounting class, I was just like, okay, I cannot do this anymore. I was getting hives. And I was kind of realizing that I could not see the future living for my parents, And at that time, I was working at Barney's New York in South Coast Plaza. And I remember just always loving working because I was around clothes too. And I grew up around my mother making clothes for a factory.
Yeah.
So I left that accounting class that day. I remember vividly. I walked over to Home Economics Department, which is now Family and Consumer Sciences. And the first person I ran into was the dean of the department, Dr. Stanley. And she goes, "Young man, are you lost? Can I help you?" Because it wasn't many guys in that department. And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, hi, my name is so-and-so. What is this department? Why are there like mannequins in the window? And what's happening here?" She goes, "Oh, this is home economics, and we do this, we do that. We have merchandising, we have fashion design, we have nursing, we have nutrition, everything that, home economics was the umbrella of."
That might be your home.
Yeah. And so literally after we introduced each other, she sat me down, she gave me a tour, and she signed me up for the department. So I had switched my majors according to her.
Right. But it was kind of, it was kind of intentional. It was moving in that direction.
Well, I put myself in that department,
Yeah.
right? So then kind of like, you manifest everything that happens to you.
Yeah.
But I always believe everything happens for a reason. And the first person I meet happened to be the dean of my future. And so I signed up. I didn't tell my parents I dropped out of business school yet. So then I finished the degree. And during the last year, you had to take an internship course. And I was still working at Barney's New York. And I remember unpacking this new brand, Cationa Deli. It was such an exotic name, but the aesthetic, I was like, oh, I understand completely, Called 411 information back then. This is pre Google, internet, and whatnot. And they connected me to her assistant, and they were just setting shop in Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles. And I introduced myself and looking for an internship. She invited me to come meet her the following Monday. And I remember sitting down, meeting her. It was home economics department with the fashion merchandising class. So I wasn't in design school, so I didn't have portfolios or anything fancy. So I had Polaroids or projects only. I brought Polaroids. I'm like, hey, I'm not from design school, but this is what kind of my projects. And she's looked at it and she goes, okay, you can start. She goes, here, like start the internship. I was so happy. Started the internship, was working also part-time at Barney's and still having to go to school.
Yeah. So Barney's and Cationa Deli were really kind of the start.
Yeah, the catalyst.
Yeah.
Yeah, into the fashion industry. And I think that I started interning there, and part-time internship took on full-time, like literally 24/7, because back then, you know, if you interned for a company, you immerse yourself in the environment. It wasn't like
Were you paid?
no, no, there was no such thing as paid internships back then. You felt chosen almost, you know.
Well, and I mean, I would imagine she's tough. She's gonna not, you know, hire just anyone. So that was.
I could never repeat that time in life, but I never regret it because I've learned so much hands-on. I worked there after 2 weeks of literally almost 7 days a week because I would just like skip class, call in sick. I wanted to help them. They called me downstairs, sat me down, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. What did I do? You know? And they're like, hey, we would like you to stay here full time. So they hired me after 2 weeks.
That's amazing.
To be full time. And I'm like, how would I do? Because I'm still in school, you know, at this time. And I wanted to just get a degree because it meant that I would be somebody to my parents. Even though they didn't know I dropped out of business school.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I took the job, and I convinced my dean and my professors to allow me to not attend school anymore, but still submit journals and come in for midterms and finals and still give me the degree.
And work full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, we never have done this before, but I'm like, this is what you preach, so
yeah.
practice
And were you doing everything with Cat? Were you actually doing any design, or were you just kind of managing
everything except design?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't back at that point too. I didn't want to be a designer. I didn't know what that was. I was just really so happy to be in the environment, and that was the point.
Creative environment.
Yeah, and I would do everything.
And how long were you there? And then how did you move?
Yeah,
because you worked your way to New York eventually.
I was there for 2 years, and then I was burnt out. It was too much, because back then too, like, you know, what people say is too much today, back then was like double of that. You know, there wasn't such a keen interest in
work life.
Yeah. It was just literally devote yourself. So I left after 2 years. I decided just to like chill out. I moved back to Orange County, and a friend of a friend contacted me and like, hey, let's start a business. I'm like, you have the wrong person. I'm not a fashion designer. You know, you should find yourself a fashion designer. I'm not. I just was just helping out, you know, making things. And they're like, no, we'd like to meet you. And then I met, and we just got along. They convinced me to start a brand called Development, and it was based in Huntington Beach. And then I moved to LA, back to LA, and it was successful. You know, it was like, I remember the first time putting pen to paper, and the first collection was 31 pieces.
And it was called Development?
Development.
Did you select the name?
Yeah, I selected the name. Mm-hmm. I selected the name. It went on for 5 years, and after about the end of 5 years, we were not getting along anymore, the business partners, you know, stakeholders. And then my partner now, Wen Zhao, my partner in 3-1 now, I was already working with her buying fabrics because she had a fabric agency. Mm-hmm. And we kind of became friends. And when I was leaving Development, she, you know, I think she had this intuition to try to do something with me, but I didn't know, you know, because I was just burnt out.
Yeah.
And so I remember prior to coming to New York, I was so happy in LA. I was like, that's my life, you know. I just bought a bungalow. It was gonna be like, I'm a California person. And so she convinced me to come to New York to go shopping with her, just like be a like second set of eyes. And I arrived Thursday. Thursday was October 2004, and then by that Monday she had placed me in an empty office, and she said, oh, by the way, we're starting a brand. And I was like, no, I'm going back home because I brought a carry-on. I have a life back there. But you know, at that point too, you just realize that it's put in front of you and it's served on a platter. Yeah. You know, you have to do something.
And she saw something in you.
Yeah, she saw something.
And you are still together, right?
Yeah. She's still my current business partner in 3-1 Phillip Lim. Even the name 3-1 Phillip Lim, 3-1, we were both 31 at that time. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really want to
that's where the name comes from, 31.
People are like, what's his name? I'm like, it wasn't anything thought out.
Yeah.
It was kind of spontaneous.
So do you identify more as California, Southern California, or is New York now that you've been here for a while?
When I was first living in New York, I'd be like, no, I'm going back to California eventually. You know what I mean? But now, just like I feel like I'm just like a citizen of the world.
Yeah.
I don't know where I belong. I know that I'm wherever I feel happy and comfortable,
Yeah.
and that's not permanent. You know.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
never know what tomorrow will bring. right?
Exactly.
So before we get cooking, because I know during COVID, a lot of people had, time to explore different parts of themselves or different things they wanted to check out. Myself knitting, so I did make a hat.
I saw that hat.
But More Than Our Bellies came about, I think, during COVID, and I want to hear about how it started. In some
Yeah.
ways, based on what you said, I feel like Hannah Lim had so much influence on your life from design
Yeah.
and now cooking, which at the time you probably didn't even think about.
No, the apple never falls too far from the tree, right? I think that Hannah Lim is my mother, and Hannah Lim has a fan club. But because Hannah Lim is everyone's mother, she is that type of energy, right? And so, how I started cooking was I grew up in a household where my mother cooked every meal for us. She's so old school and traditional, like even though she worked a full-time job, she managed to arrange and schedule and cook all our meals for like 6 kids and
Wow.
and a father, you know what I mean? And it was never just one dish, it was like 4 dishes, like 3 dishes and a soup, like I just think back now, like how did she choreograph all that with just by herself? And so moving to New York, working on fashion, being in the scene, like living such a fast-paced life. I went from home cooking to takeout, and going out to restaurants for 12, 13 years of my life, you know what I mean? And it was like kind of wreaking havoc.
Yeah.
And I remember personally too, like kind of feeling so disconnected from everything that I grew up with, my roots basically. And I felt like in a place where it felt existential. I was questioning everything, not only fashion, but also health and just what I needed something to ground me. And I remember being in this kitchen actually, and missing her so much, or missing home so much. And when I was growing up, there was this particular dish that she would always cook for me when I was feeling down or grouchy or hangry. I was ravenous with this dish, and it was her Thai chicken basil. And I remember just missing her so much, and I was like, okay, through olfactory memories, I was like, okay, what did it smell like? What did it taste like? I took myself to Chinatown, found the ingredients, pretty basic ingredients, brought it back, and I never cooked before prior to this. I'm that person that didn't realize you had to take tin foil off a cup of noodles before you put it in the microwave.
Right.
I'm that person.
Ramen noodles.
Yeah. And so I remember just tracing down through memory, olfactory memory, and taste the type of ingredients. I brought it all back. I cooked it, and it came to life.
You.
And it felt just like, oh I'm home. And that was such a pivotal transformation. That moment was so, just like I knew I could do something. And prior to that, people always say, I think you'd be good at cooking. Do you cook? I'm like, no, I eat.
Yeah.
And obviously I grew up around it.
It's in your genes.
This is my genes, literally. She taught me how to make jeans, and she put those in my jeans.
There you go. Love that.
I became just addicted to cooking. And I think that also because at that time in my life too, the business kept growing, and like there was many teams and layers and decision making and creative endeavors often involve so many different teams. So then you just become part of a process. And cooking was me, myself, my ingredients in my kitchen.
Yeah.
It was about creative control too, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
And I could temper things, I could adjust things. I didn't have to have an opinion. I didn't have to get everyone on board. I didn't have to sell anything.
Yeah, because sometimes in a business you you start it because it's what you love, and then after a while it becomes tougher.
It becomes a
and
business.
There's a lot, yeah, and
It becomes
this
a business.
got you back to the origins of creation.
Yeah. So anyone watching too, eventually anything successful becomes a business. An idea becomes a business, and you must have both. But you also should have side hobbies that connect you back to just what you love.
Yeah.
And I think that cooking became that. It was so inspiring, but also it was also healing.
Yeah.
Getting health back and learning about the natural cycles and the seasonality and being very conscious and in tune with just the respect and balance of the natural world, right? And from that, so many possibilities, and just in the end, like a lime is not a lime anymore. There's regular limes, there's Murcott limes, there's like all sorts of limes, and they all have slight nuancing to the flavor. And I think that even the way More Than Our Bellies actually started was at 31 Phillip Lim, we were working on campaigns early on, and we would travel the world, and I was working with Vivian Sasson, an artist. And we would travel the world and do kind of guerrilla style photo shoots in random parts of the world, and we would always end up in marketplaces. And she would be documenting all these images and stuff like that. And we worked on about 4 campaigns with each other throughout our working relationship. And one day she's like, "Hey Philip, we should work on something separate from fashion." I'm like, "Sure, what would you like to work on?" And she goes, "Let's make a recipe book." I'm like, "A recipe book? Well, I'm not a chef, or I'm not anything like that, and you're not a you're not a food photographer. You're like a revered artist, you know what I mean?"
But it's beautiful, the colors.
So she's like, "But it's not about the food. It's about our relationship as friends, our experiences, and it's about food memories." And so that she kind of like nudged me to have confidence in writing down the things I was cooking already. So it's recipes. So the recipes were like my letters to her, and then her photographs of marketplaces that we were traveling to corresponded with the recipes. You know what I mean? So it was an abstract recipe art book, which was kind of like new.
And it's probably a journey of both of your lives too, and talking about what you remember growing up.
Completely. And we put it out. We self-published it. 500 copies, and art book dealers and photography collectors and all everyone was ravenous about it, and they sold out like literally overnight. And I was like, "Oh wow, we made something." And I remember when we put it all together too, my team was like, "What do you want to call it?" And like, "It should be called More Than Our Bellies," instantly. And they're like laughing at me, like, "That's a kooky name." I'm like, "But you don't understand. Everything is more than our bellies. The food is more than our bellies. It's about nourishing each other. It's about a love language. It's about gathering people together. It's everything but the food. It's about the whole ceremony." And so hence, More Than Our Bellies was born, but it was just like a side project. And when COVID hit, I was like, "You know what? That side project, let's make it into a real thing."
Yeah.
And that's when I launched More Than Our Bellies as a separate entity that's non-affiliated with fashion or anything in the space. I remember when I first created the logo with Sho Shibuya, we met and he's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Well, it's about beginners. It's about first-timers. It's about everything, memories. It's about experiences. It's about everything, how food brings us all together." And it's more than just about food. So everything we do, which is More Than Our Bellies, is more than just food. It's about like collaborations on pottery, on chopping boards, on tongue sticks. Everything is about More Than Our Bellies. So hence that was born.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing you were talking about, how, you were kind of, life was just getting, crazy or whatever, and you kind of like thinking about your mom and the experience of food, and it's crazy because I think all of us do that. Like I think about times when I'm stressed out. I think about, you know, in the summers when I was younger, I used to go to my aunt and uncle's cottage, and like I slept so well there. And I'm like, well, this memory just makes me sleep, you know. And I think food is such a sensory thing that every one of us, whether, you know, whatever culture you're from, you kind of remember something from that culture that food that kind of is your comfort food. And mine was stuffed cabbage because I was Eastern European.
Yeah,
so
there we go.
It's crazy how that all plays out.
I mean, even that phrase, we break bread at the table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's when we like make agreements happen. We come to a conclusion. We gather people around to like share bread, you know?
Yeah. What are we going to make here today, Philip?
Today we're going to make something that is quite participatory. It's Vietnamese fried spring rolls, or otherwise known as imperial rolls. And basically very simple, but everything with Asian cuisine, which I love, is quite layered because there's a lot of herbs, there's a lot of behind the scenes that makes things very simple.
And would Hannah have made this? Hannah Lim? She would have made this.
Hannah would make this. Hannah's quite international herself when it comes to cuisines, so she would make this. And basically, let's see, the main star is rice paper, and this happens to be a very good brand that I find that has a nice consistency. We got that. We're gonna make this. It's gonna come in 3 parts. We're gonna make the stuffing, which is gonna be ground pork, wood ear mushrooms here that I soaked and rehydrated.
So are these, where do you get these? Like,
these grow off of tree barks in the woods.
wow.
Yeah, they're a type of mushroom, and they have like a floppy texture. It's cool. It's like ears. That's why it's called wood ear.
And would you find this like in Chinatown?
Yeah, in Chinatown, it's quite common. You find them dehydrated, and then you just literally put them back in water and then rehydrate. Some carrots shavings, vermicelli noodles, glass noodles or bean thread, or what they call it, an egg, some shallots, and some sauces, oyster sauce, fish sauce, and black pepper. So we're gonna start with the stuffing first, and then from there we're gonna move on to making the sauce, the dipping sauce, and from there we're gonna fry, and then we're gonna enjoy.
And then what's the green for?
Okay, the green is when we finish frying and stuff like that, we use the greens to wrap it and dip it into the dipping sauce.
And is that like mint?
So mint, cucumbers, and green leaf lettuce. Very simple. And what I love about Vietnamese cuisine is it's always so rich and accompanied with green leafy vegetables, fresh vegetables. So you always have that balance between like savory and fresh. Yeah. So we begin. Just put this on the side for now.
So you just can boss me around if you need me to do any work or anything.
Yeah. So basically, what you're gonna do is put some water in here and soak the glass noodles. And you know what's incredible about like Asian cuisines, a lot of the ingredients were made to last because it's, you know, if you think about the regions and how the origins too, there wasn't refrigerators. So everything was dehydrated, everything was fermented, everything was highly seasoned to mask food that would start rotting. You know what I mean? So then that's why we have such beautiful flavors and layers of ingredients. So basically we start with the filling. So basically this is about 1 pound of ground pork here. Put that in there.
And could you substitute any other meat?
If you don't have, you could do chicken, ground chicken. You could do ground shrimp. You know what I mean? You could do probably mushrooms, different types of mushrooms if you're vegetarian, you know? But I just happen to use ground pork because it's classic. Yeah. So now, then what we do is, with the carrots here, I shave some carrots using just a shaver, and then I'll mince it further. So I finally mince up the carrots, we put it in here. And I'm working with a Chinese cleaver because this is what my mom used, and it's actually a very genius design because it's great for chopping, but it also has a nice wall. So when you're using that knuckle guard technique, you're not slicing your knuckles off. Yeah. Okay. Now we're gonna move over to the wood ear mushrooms here. Again, they
They're so spongy. Or
Yeah.
They have this interesting texture
Yeah.
to them.
It's like big ears, right?
Yeah.
And they grow off tree barks, basically. So we're gonna do that. They come dehydrated, and then you just soak them in water for 5 minutes, and then they rehydrate. Fungi in the whole mushroom category, it's not a vegetable and it's not a protein. It's something in between. So that's why, like vegetarians, and if you don't eat meat, you can create umami with mushroom. You know. So now we have the wood ear mushrooms, the carrots, the
Pork.
ground pork.
Is there anything mixed in with the pork, or is it
Yeah,
just pork?
we're going to continue that now. Now we have a shallot here. Going to slice up the ends. Cut it in half.
So Philip, I see you're using your More Than Our Bellies cutting board. What other products have you developed?
Oh God, the cutting boards are perennial, so that's always available in small, medium, large. We also do collaborations, like I work with Heman Studios, and we created these Bloom series. This tray here, it's kind of like the inspiration is a flower in bloom here.
And you can use that for soap or...
This particular design was a tray, and I wanted something that you could use for ingredients, for soap, but also for pencils if you're gonna put it on your desk. There's also like the bowls here, the bloom bowls.
And who designed, I mean, obviously you helped design these, but who made these? Who is the ceramicist?
Heman Studios, and she's based in Brooklyn. And you know, she has a particular style that I really love because it's very zen. But then I would work with her on the types of categories, and we'd go back and forth. She would sketch something, I'd be like, oh, make it longer, make it shorter, you know. Basically, I was inspired by, if I were to put all these objects in my home and they were functional, what do I need?
What do you want?
Yeah. How can I make a soap dish more chic? How can I make a bowl, a tray that's multi-purpose? How can I make a bowl that's, you know, can be used as decorative or as functional? Like for example, these boards here, they're handmade by also a woodworker in Long Island City. And it's made from white maple because it's a natural hardwood. And it's not as porous, so bacteria doesn't settle in. So everything that you see, there's always a reason for it. It's not just about how pretty it looks. And these are hand assembled. And what was incredible about him was I was looking for a woodworker, and I got connected over social media.
Love
and
that.
he was an art framer for about 15 years, and he would frame from Van Goghs to the most modern things. But his hobby was woodworking. So then literally I met him, he works out of his garage, and he hand makes these boards one by one.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I designed.
And they come in different sizes?
They come in different sizes. This is the large here, this is a small, and there's a medium. And I use all the boards when I'm cooking because it avoids contamination. So it's really important.
And they all have different textures. and
Yeah,
colors.
because we're honoring the natural wood grain. So instead of making everything uniform, you know, and wasting wood, we're just like, as the wood comes, we work with it. So that's very important too. Yeah. I'm working on a couple other projects right now, like I'll show you when we start cooking, like a tong stick that is used for cooking, but also can be used for chopsticks for people who are challenged by using the chopsticks. Okay, so now always have a wipe near you too, so just wipe off the cleaver. So now we're gonna work with the shallots here.
You're like a natural. You could have gone to the Culinary Institute of America.
No, one day I want to do a
class
on prepping, knife skills, because you know, I think that I was at home and I was watching my mom prepare foods, and it's like she does it without even looking now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
what about like sharpening too is very important.
Sharpening is very important, and also maintenance, constant maintenance of your working tools. You know, I think also speaking about that, we're working on also a wax for your boards to always keep your boards healthy and vibrant. Okay, so that is the shallots here. After that, we're going to
So we have pork,
Yeah.
mushrooms, carrots, and
Carrots,
shallots.
and now we have the
The noodles are
the
going in
glass
there.
noodles. Yeah, so they're softer now. We're gonna slice those in there. Again, this is all about texture now. We won't use all of it. So we use that in there. Save the rest here.
And what are those noodles made out of?
Bean,
Bean,
yeah, mung bean.
mung bean. Okay.
So if you're looking for a carb, that's not a carb, it's the glass noodles
we
because
go.
it's made from a protein, a bean.
So a lot of people would like to know that the
Yeah,
mung.
the mung bean. In like restaurants, it's called glass noodles, or yeah, it's the transparent ones. Okay, so now we have the glass noodles, the shallots, the carrots, the Whittier mushrooms, the pork. We're gonna crack an egg. Okay, so we cracked an egg in there. We're going to grind some fresh black pepper. And this is a pound of pork, and literally I just do everything by guesstimations. But
So how much is this going to make? Just for a couple for us, or let's make
Yeah.
how many rolls?
you could probably make from this like 2 dozen rolls.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 dozen rolls.
Yeah.
So next we're gonna use fish sauce to season.
And Philip, while we're doing this, I want to ask you. So we're at your beautiful apartment here in Soho, but you also have your special place.
Yeah.
And
The More Than
I
Our
wanna
Bellies
know-
headquarters.
Yeah, the More Than Our Bellies headquarters. And I want to know where this special place is, and tell me just a little bit about it, because it's beautiful. Looks like it blends in with nature.
Yeah. So no one really knows where it is because everyone thinks it's in somewhere in Europe or California because it's quite a special property, but it is in the North Fork. And I stay there because I love being around the farms and the vineyards. And I call it the More Than Our Bellies headquarters now. And it's just like my happy place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quiet.
Quiet,
peaceful.
nature, isolated.
Sunsets
Sunsets
that are incredible.
sunrises are incredible, and it's literally there's no noise or visual pollution. Yeah, so that's where the More Than Our Bellies headquarters is. Okay, now oyster sauce.
Seems like you use oyster sauce a
On
lot.
everything.
I love oysters, but I've never really used oyster sauce.
Yeah. So those of you who cannot use oyster sauce because you're vegetarian, you can use hoisin. Hoisin is made from soy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So, but I always use oyster sauce because I love the flavors.
and like this oyster sauce, where can you buy this? Is it-
You can get this at Whole Foods
Whole
these
Foods,
days.
they have it,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, different brands, you know. It's quite common now. And then we're gonna add about what is this? Half a tablespoon of sugar. Yeah. All right. And now we're gonna mix it up. We're gonna use our hands to mix it up. I'm gonna wash my hands for
Okay.
a second.
Are we going to be using these limes at some point?
Yeah, that will be used to make the sauce, the
Okay.
dipping sauce. So this is step 1 where we make the fillings because we have to set it in the refrigerator and let it sit.
Okay.
All right,
The
so
flavors soak in.
yeah, like normally I know people have issue with using your hands and stuff like that, but for me it's like home cooking, so
Yeah.
yeah. So basically just gonna mix it all in.
This is actually kind of how I make my stuffed cabbage.
Yeah. You're gonna love this.
It looks amazing.
Yeah. You should take this home, and then so you can try to make other things because you can use this filling in stuffed tomatoes. You can use
Totally.
it in
Stuffed
everything.
peppers.
Stuffed peppers. It's incredible. So that's the thing about like Asian cuisines too. Everything is multi-purpose. You just get in there. So what you see is like the beautiful textures. There's a lot of fermentation. And again, the reason why fermentation is because there's no refrigeration. So you live in areas where you have to make produce last.
Hence, like Koreans with kimchi.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's really probiotics in the end, right? And so that's why for me, Asian cooking is incredible because not only is it delicious because it's so layered, but they use food in a natural way. They use ingredients within a natural process. And then it returns to your body and it's pretty healthy, you know? Okay, so we start with, we put sugar into the water. This is like a cup and a half of water. So I'm gonna put about like 4 tablespoons of sugar. And again, everything is about testing and adjusting, okay? And then from there, why you want to use warm to lukewarm water? Because it melts the sugar faster. So not cold water. So basically the sugar, and then you have the acidity from the lime, and then you have the
hotness,
the spice from the chili, you have the garlic, and then you balance it with vinegar.
Okay.
So it's really like a beautiful sauce, and this sauce is actually not only a good dipping sauce, but it's, sometimes I use it as a salad dressing, you know, but it's quite quintessential, right? So from there, I'm gonna put fish sauce, and I'm gonna go for about like 5 tablespoons. That's 5. Okay, you could smell that fish sauce. And so now what we do with the chilies, I'm using about, what is that, 6 chilies. And then what I'll do is I'll just smash them. And then I'll cut them up like just in sections here. And then we'll place them into pesto here in the mortar. And then I'll smash also the garlic, and that's the beautiful thing about these cleavers. Like nothing gets away.
Perfect for garlic.
Yeah. Okay. It also helps to separate the peel, right? Drop it all in there. So I have garlic and chili in here, and then we're gonna just smash it up.
So Phillip, back to fashion a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm curious, you know, what you think about where New York fashion is right now.
New York Fashion Week, we're in a state of transition. I think that we're trying to come back as a place of excitement and discovery. So you see it. It feels like very old New York, but a new version of this. And it's quite exciting. You see a democratization of it. You see, you know, new brands, new ideas. And, you know, for me, it's really like how I hope there is a support system for it to last.
Yeah.
So it's not flash in the pan, because oftentimes, you know, what happens with like new ideas and new talent and stuff like that, corporate entities circle around it and then take from it, crush it, and just leave it.
Yeah.
And this is that vicious cycle that has to stop.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we need to support and nurture.
You have to, like, not only do you have to recognize talent, but the most important part of it is how do you nurture it? Because we're so good at recognizing it, but we drop off when it comes to nurturing.
Right.
And this is the issue.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a hand to create the creators. You know what I mean? Like, this is the issue. We don't follow through and nurture it. You know, we just recognize
It's almost
it.
kind of exploit it real quick
Real
and
quick.
then move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know?
So now we have the chili, the garlic.
Ooh, that looks good.
Yeah.
So wait, what was in that water to begin
The
with?
water was sugar, water,
sugar.
and fish sauce.
Oh yeah.
And then I have the crushed garlic, fresh garlic and chili. Okay, so then I just added vinegar, white vinegar. And now we're gonna add the lime, fresh lime. So if your lime is not soft, roll the lime before you cut it. You know, roll the lime, cut it in half. We're gonna work with about 2 limes here. Start with 2 limes, but you could do more.
And this is the dipping sauce?
This is a dipping sauce.
Yeah.
Again, I always make extra because it lasts forever, and you can use it for so many things. You could use it on rice. You could use it on like proteins. You can use it as a salad dressing. What we're gonna do? We're gonna taste this, and then we're gonna adjust.
So you could like keep this in the refrigerator for quite a while.
It needs more
Just don't give them
lime.
those peppers.
Taste this now again. What do you think?
Try that.
Has a nice balance maybe for imagine dipping. Good, right?
Very good.
Yeah.
Actually, what you did made it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So the whole thing is always about adjusting it too and tasting it and stuff like that. That's where you learn, you know?
And it's like almost like a wine. You can feel the flavors
and
come even later. They just keep.
And they stay on the top of your tongue. So now this is the dipping sauce, and we're gonna put this in the refrigerator to chill it. And we are now going to roll the spring rolls. And we had the fillings settled in for a while, so it's the marinade and the flavors are good. This is water here. And one of the secrets to this is I always sprinkle a dab of sesame oil to lubricate the water so that so when we're softening the rice paper, it doesn't stick on the plate. And so this is what the paper looks like.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Translucent. Here's super
Like you
fine.
can eat this?
Yeah, it's rice.
Oh my God.
It's gonna melt.
Look at that thing.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of beautiful.
Yeah. So what we do is we literally just do 2 circles.
And that softens it up.
Yeah, that softens it up right away. So you try 2 circles.
This is the perfect bowl for these.
Everything has a reason.
It does.
Everything has a reason.
Do you think that's soft enough?
Yeah, that's
okay.
good.
Okay.
It's gonna melt even more.
Okay.
See, that was a novice mistake.
Put it back in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I just need 2.
2. That's it, 2. And so what you do is, like, for example, I'm gonna do mine, and you do yours afterwards, right? Just like literally a spoonful here. Okay. We'll put a spoonful for you.
Yeah.
You don't want to overstuff it because it's gonna explode, right?
Wow. So we're gonna roll this up.
So we're gonna push it to the back here.
This is so cool.
And then use both fingers, tautly but not tight. Taut. And then
what do you do with the
slowly.
sides?
1 second. You like push out the air bubbles and then you fold it in like a burrito.
Like that?
Yeah.
Mine won't be as good as yours, but.
Practice makes perfect.
Okay, and then keep rolling.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you got it.
That softened up so much.
Yeah. And then we're gonna put it here on the wax paper so it doesn't stick.
So tell me, New York Fashion Week, you went to some shows.
I was like a professional show goer.
But you didn't show this.
No, we did private press appointments. I haven't been showing for a couple of seasons now because I just feel like
It's changing.
it's changing, but also I want to connect back to the community and people that I work with and like editors on one-on-one, a more intimate basis. And the show doesn't always promote that.
Yeah, it's so quick. It's like a few minutes. And is there anything that's happening now or that you saw that's inspiring to you?
Like all these new designers, all these new brands, they're like, they're really like, they're just, you can't even call them rule breakers anymore because they just come out the gates just swinging. You know what I mean? And I love that energy. So it was really refreshing to see like that like anti-establishment going full force.
Yeah, and it seems like New York is coming back just in so many ways. I was a little worried about all the vacancies and restaurants not surviving. It was sad, but it seems like you're starting to see. I think there's going to be a renaissance.
If any place in this world would come back right away, it's here.
Totally.
We live in a global city. You know what I mean? We live in a place where
so many ideas.
The best of the best come and make things happen. We have to remember that, The best of the best come here. And if you can make it here, then you're pretty good. These are our pre-fried spring rolls, imperial rolls, like gorgeously handled by Joe here. So now the last step is to fry. And then after that, we enjoy. Okay?
Yes.
So we're gonna bring it over here. Very simple. So we have a wok. I filled it up with some oil. I'm gonna heat the wok.
And what kind of oil are you using?
I'm using a tempura oil today. It's like this Japanese brand here.
Yeah. How do you know, like, I always wonder, like, when you're doing the oil, how do you know when it's ready? Is it like smoking? Is it like,
So in some kitchens, you have a thermometer. But in my kitchen, we test the old-fashioned way. We set the chopstick down, and then when it starts to bubble around the wood, it's ready. You see the bubbles starting to form a little bit?
Around there, yeah?
Yeah.
So they'll start bubbling a little bit?
Almost there. We're gonna do a double fry. We're gonna flash fry, like the heat is on very high right now, but when we start, it's gonna be slow and low. So low heat and slow, so it doesn't
you
rip
get it.
up.
You heat it up to your temp, and then you lower it.
Yeah, because we want to cook the insides of this too.
Oh yeah.
Because if you just flash fry, it just will cook the
It'll be
outside
raw
and the inside.
pork,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's why we're gonna do a double fry method, and also gonna make it crispier, and also guarantee the insides are cooked. So slow and low.
Yeah. So what is it going to bubble around?
Yeah,
there
you
a
see?
little bit?
Can you see?
Oh yeah. Now it's bubbling.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting
Yeah.
ready.
So we're
about
gonna
ready.
test now. Let's just toss one in and test.
I didn't think
Okay,
it was-
ready?
Yeah. Hopefully I didn't get too much air in mine.
No, we're good. See the air bubbles start to form here? You have to do slow and low. I'm gonna turn it a little bit to medium here and not let it stick with each other.
That's fine. Mine was
Yeah,
air
air bubbles.
Just top those.
It's fine. So what I want to do is I don't want to crowd the wok also, you know.
So how long will you cook these? Do you want them to be like golden brown or?
We'll do it 2 passes. So the first pass, we're gonna roll them around.
Oh, they do stick.
Yeah, they're really sticky. So what we want to do is detach them. Yeah, we want to get them golden brown. So I usually cook 6 at a time. Depending on the size of your wok too. But again, the reason why you don't want to crowd the wok is because it lowers the temperature
Yep.
of the oil, and also it sticks together. Okay, so this is the first pass. I'm gonna remove it.
So you're gonna drop it in again.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
later. But we're gonna pass it around one more time so that it just becomes super firm.
I know you're super busy. So what do you do like for, when you're cooking and you want something fast? Or is it like stuff you make like you cook on a Sunday and then you're like, I have
No.
leftovers, or what's?
I mean, I wouldn't make the filling first. I would do it in stages because the actual cooking is fast.
Yeah, so you can have all that sauce
Yeah.
made,
Everything's
the
already
filling,
made, yeah.
and then you're like, okay, just
Yeah.
fry a few.
Exactly. The great thing about that kind of stuff too is like you can just always freeze it. You know what I mean? And the sauce is like a refrigerator and multi-use and purpose, and it will last forever, literally. You know, if I'm making egg rolls like this too, I can make all this stuff and just freeze it, and then when I'm ready to use again, I can
Just pop
refry
it
it.
off, yeah.
Yeah. So you start to learn what what you like to eat, and you start to learn how to prepare for it.
We got our last batch in. Ooh, look at those.
last
Yum.
batch in. Got some
Phillip.
wine,
Look at that.
and we're gonna get some plates. Okay. So now we have the egg rolls, we have the vegetables, and we're gonna bring out the sauce, right? That secret
Yes.
sauce. So this sauce here,
And these are hot.
hot. Okay, for the moment of truth.
We are going to try these Vietnamese
Imperial rolls.
imperial rolls.
Okay. This is for you,
Thank
sir.
you.
This is for me. Okay, so basically it's still hot, right? So what you want to do is you want to use green lettuce, and you take a lettuce like this here, and then a couple slices of cucumber.
I'm gonna do 2.
Yeah, sure. And then
Cucumber.
I will insert some mint. Mint is very important here. And then, literally,
You put the roll.
yeah, I'll roll it this way.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So I'll roll it like this.
And then we're
So
gonna
an
dip.
exterior, and it's still hot, so be careful, okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And so you
Then
have this roll.
we're gonna dip.
Yeah, we're
Another
gonna dip. It's hot. Be careful.
I know. I gotta.
Good, right? Mm. This wasn't a made for TV.
And it's not even as hot as I thought it was going to be.
So you notice that you get the freshness from the leafy greens, you get that crunch from the rice, and then you get that filling, the textures.
It's so good.
And then that sauce is like lime, fish, sugar, vinegar, chili.
It's so good.
It's like
I need a napkin. Philip, you say you're not a chef, but you are a chef. Chef Phillip Lim.
you guys don't eat some.
So worth the wait.
Please come.
That was so good.
Put down that camera and then come have some.